Discover the latest health tips, expert advice, and inspiring stories. This is the Health Channel Podcast. Your journey to better health starts now.
From the very first newborn visit all the way to the adolescent checkup, feeding and nutrition has always been a topic of conversation in the pediatric office. On today's show, I'll discuss the difference between various formulas on the market, managing a piggy toddler, all the way to introducing a nutritious diet and a healthy lifestyle to your adolescent child. On the next episode of Ask the Doc, No Appointment Needed. Hi. I'm Dr. Scarlet Constant, board-certified pediatrician and founder of Constant Care Pediatrics here in Miami, Florida. I encourage you to send in your questions if you want me to address anything regarding nutrition, feeding, or even the various formulas that are out on the market and how to feed a newborn baby. Send in your questions and I'm happy to answer them in real time. It looks like we already have a question coming in now. This question is from Tracy. Hi, Dr. Constant. I'm a new mom, and I've been very careful with the food that my baby gets. While on maternity leave, I've breastfed her for 3 months, and now I'm getting ready to go back to work. Pumping is not an option for me, so I'm researching formulas. Please tell me what kind of formula I should be looking for. So, Tracy, to answer your question, if you are going back to work and you are unable to pump, which I will add just in case, every workplace is required to give you 15 minutes 3 to 4 times a day and a secluded room that is sterile or that is actually clean and in good condition for you to use to pump if you so please. But if pumping is not an option for other reasons and you would like to introduce formula, I encourage you to have a conversation with your pediatrician to come up with a plan to choose a formula that suits your baby. And when I say that, I mean that perhaps you have a baby that might be a little bit fussy or colicky or might show that they have an intolerance to cow milk protein or an allergy to cow milk protein. So you would like to have that conversation with your pediatrician so you can properly select a formula that suits your baby's nutritional needs. And I encourage you to look at a formula that is FDA approved. And the reason for that is that FDA approval means that the FDA was actually able to review studies that were completed by the formula companies and actually read the literature and approve the formula based on the literature that was provided, meaning that the formula was actually safe for infants, provided the nutrients required for these infants, and even provided nutrients and extra oils that will help with neurodevelopment and future growth. So there are requirements that formula companies are supposed to meet in order to get FDA approval. So the fact that a formula has that approval at least lets you know in advance that they've met all requirements, they've performed the proper studies, and they are actually being monitored so that if there is ever an adverse event or a contamination or anything of that nature, at least we will always have a record of it and you will be made aware. So those are some of the benefits of picking a formula that's actually FDA approved. And then, like I mentioned, you'd want to speak to your pediatrician and find out within that subset which formulas are beneficial for your baby and which formulas have maybe even extra supplements that your baby might need or is hydrolyzed in order to help your baby with digestion. So I hope that answered your question, and I hope that you do your research and just read a little bit about what each of these companies provide and what they were able to show in their studies that will benefit your baby. Okay, we have another question coming in from Facebook, and this is from Nikki. I'm 6 months pregnant and have been doing research on baby formula, and I've been seeing mixed reviews on palm oil. Is that an ingredient I should stay away from? Are there other ingredients that are bad for my baby? Yes, so there has been a lot of talk, mostly on social media, about palm oil and seed oils altogether. And as an adult, The answer is yes. You should stay away from these oils as they are found in fried foods and they are not healthy to your cardiovascular health. However, for your baby, that is very different. The seed oils have been added to formulas and palm oil has in fact been added. It's a source of omega-6 that babies do need for brain development and for positive neurodevelopment. And again, studies have been performed on infants receiving this oil, and the trajectory of their brain growth and their development and their academic performances in the future have actually been reported and published. And there are nothing but positive effects with this. So I don't know why I got a bad rap. I believe it is because some have interpreted the results in adult studies and basically transposed them onto the infant studies, but they are not the same. The adult pathophysiology and the infant pathophysiology is completely different. So certainly it is a great idea to purchase a formula or to give your child a formula that has a form of a seed oil. So we have another question coming in, and this question is coming in from the allhealthtv.com app. Angela, hi, Dr. C. I have a question that I'm sure you are asked all the time. Breastfeed or bottle feed? I had real problems when I tried to breastfeed my oldest son, but we eventually figured it out. Now I'm pregnant with my second child, and I want to make sure my youngest is getting off to the right start nutritionally. I've heard about organic formulas. What do you think about them? Well, Angela, to answer the first part of your question, of course, we always say that breast is best. And if you are looking for a quote unquote organic formula, the only organic formula that there is out there is actually breast milk, to be honest. If you cannot breastfeed or choose not to breastfeed, both are totally fine. This is a decision that you need to make with your family, and you need to discuss it with them and decide what is best for your child. And if breastfeeding doesn't work for you or your family, or you decide against it, then absolutely you should go ahead and choose formula. But again, organic formula is almost a misnomer. That's just a marketing strategy. Formula is not organic. Yes, you try to use clean products. Sure, we try to use grass-fed cows, but the reality is things are added to formula for a reason. The formula companies are trying to replicate breast milk the best way they can. And in order to do that, there has to be supplements and oils and other ingredients added to this in order to replicate breast milk. So absolutely, iron has been added, oils have been added, carbs have been added. I'm sure many of you have heard corn syrup is added, not to be confused with high fructose corn syrup. So what happens is a lot of these companies have marketed that they don't add corn syrup. And then people immediately assume, oh my goodness, there's high fructose corn syrup in American-made formulas. No, corn syrup is glucose. Glucose is sugar. It is a carb. It is okay. You need that in your formula. So corn syrup is added. The other companies might not add that, so they say that they're organic. That does not necessarily mean that's a good thing. Iron is added to FDA-approved formulas because in our country, we require 1.5 to 1.8 grams of iron per 1,000 kcals of formula, and this is because iron deficiency was a problem in this country, or currently is. So we need iron supplements in our formula. Breast milk does not have the adequate amount of vitamin D. So when you give your baby breast milk, you also supplement with vitamin D because we as humans do not create enough vitamin D for the daily requirement. Formula adds the vitamin D. So all of these quote unquote added ingredients, I believe, is what other competitors are referring to as being non-organic, if that makes sense. So I want you to please do your homework, read wisely, discuss it with your pediatrician, and remember, the only organic milk is breast milk. Welcome back. It looks like we have a few questions coming in. Here's a question from Ronald. My 11-year-old has some food challenges, and one of them is eating vegetables. He doesn't like anything green. As you can imagine, he's a very picky eater. What advice can you share to help me make sure he's getting the nutrients he needs? Well, Ronald, that is very frustrating, but I must assure you, you are not alone. Most kids his age do not love greens. And I think that as parents, we get very fixated on our children meeting some type of imaginary requirement of a certain number of greens, a certain number of oranges, and a certain amount of fruit that we want our child to have in every meal, which is a little unrealistic. Children have quite an unsophisticated palate, and it evolves over time. And I'm sure if you really think hard, you'll remember back when you were his age, you also probably did not like greens, but over time you matured and you evolved and you started eating different vegetables and introducing new things into your diet until you are where you are now. With that said, I would pick a couple of things that you find are acceptable in your home and that you think are nutritious and healthy for your child, and introduce them. And if he likes them, then we should praise him and support him and be happy with that. And over time, we can eventually start to introduce maybe greens or other vegetables that he might not like now, but he may like in the future. But I would say go slow, be supportive, and don't scare him away from vegetables altogether. What happens is that we as parents might get frustrated, or we might have a forceful attitude toward it where you must eat this, or you can't leave the table, or you've got to clean this plate. And once you start going down that road, you're just basically pushing them away from even wanting them to try. And you're creating a negative environment around this. So I think the best thing to do is pick a couple of things that you're okay with, that you think might be a little tastier, and then slowly try to introduce the greens and other veggies as you can. Good luck. Okay, so we have another question coming in, and this one is from Landon. Hi, Dr. C. I need your help dealing with my teenage son who insists on getting fast food. He says he has no time to make healthier choices, but I'm concerned. He works and says it's my money, my choice. What can I do? How bad is fast food for a teenager? Landon, I'm really sorry that you're having a difficult time with your teenage son. And there are a couple of things there that we can address. First of all, I know that it is not as common as it was in the past, but if you could try to eat as a family, I think we could start there. At least, breakfast, I understand breakfast might be out of the house because kids are in a rush and they might have a different schedule, but at least dinner should be eaten together at home. And so if you're eating together and you're showing your son the type of food and the lifestyle that he should lead, he's learning by example, eating with you. Now, of course, he goes out during the day, he's running errands, and he goes to work and he wants to pick up something on the road because it's faster. And so therefore he picks up fast food. I would really have a talk with him and explain how important it is for cardiovascular health just at this point in his life. I think what happens is that kids don't understand that their cholesterol can be elevated now and that they can have cardiovascular issues now. They think that's an old person's problem, and it isn't. So I think reminding your son, fast food is greasy, it's fatty, it's clogging your arteries. I think it's important for him to know that, and that he needs to exercise and stay fit. And if he isn't, he can't also eat fast food. I think bringing him to his pediatrician and getting routine blood work is also very helpful. I have a lot of patients that come to my office and we have the discussion, but we also do blood work so that the child could see. Maybe it's something if they see it in black and white, like, hey, look, my cholesterol's elevated and I'm only 16. That's a little more realistic and tangible for them. And it's a little more concrete so they can actually see the effects of their behavior. So that's also a good start in order to discuss with your son. And then finally, my money, my decision, that's just a discussion you need to have in the home. Just because you have money does not mean that you are free to make whatever choice you want, right or wrong. That your son still lives in your home. He still has to abide by your rules. And as a matter of fact, let him know he's still on your health insurance. So you want him to stay healthy. And if he feels he wants to make all of his own decisions, then maybe he should take all of the financial responsibility, not just the food. That's just like a little anecdotal advice for you having a teenage child. Okay, looks like there's another question coming in from Jimmy. My toddler eats a lot of fruits, but a friend recently told me that too much fruit isn't good either for kids. She said fruit can affect sugar levels. Please tell me I'm not hurting my daughter when I'm actually trying to help her. Okay, Jimmy, you're not hurting your daughter, and your daughter is still quite young, so it is natural that they have a very limited variety of foods and snacks. So that is common, but I do want you to really keep in mind that fruits have natural sugars, and having a diet consisting predominantly of fruit, yes, it can be harmful. And it also is just introducing bad eating habits, because your child will have prefer foods on the sweeter side and prefer that amount of sugar as part of their diet, which is not what you want. So it's not irreversible. Now you know, and here's the time to change and start to introduce maybe more protein or more vegetables into your daughter's diet. Okay, looks like there's another question coming in. And this question came from Facebook. It's from Janine. Hi, Dr. C. I feel a little silly asking this question because I don't want to be a meddlesome grandma, but my granddaughter doesn't eat breakfast, not even a little frozen waffle, nothing. I grew up hearing breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but maybe that's outdated. Should I be worried? My son doesn't think it's a big deal. Well, Janine, I completely understand your concern. And yes, breakfast is a very important meal, and it really helps kids get through the day, especially at school. I don't know how old your granddaughter is, and depending on her age, we can, the answer does change. For young kids, especially elementary school age, they really do need a healthy breakfast, a healthy and nutritious breakfast in order to start the day. They usually need this for their focus in school, to help with their attention span, and of course to not have basically a sugar crash while they're in class. So it is very important. As the kids get older, they start to refuse breakfast or they feel better eating a little bit later, middle school, high school years. That's still not acceptable, but at least the older kids, as they are eating bigger dinners and consuming more calories, they could perhaps get away with maybe having a smoothie in the morning for breakfast, or maybe like a protein bar, or just something to give them that sugar boost they need, give them a little bit of energy and protein to carry them over for their lunch hour. But absolutely, breakfast is very important. And I do think that you should have an honest conversation with your son and let him know that maybe his child doesn't complain or feel hungry, but certainly you'll see the effects of a hungry child at school, and you'll see the effects in their behavior and in their performance at school. Good luck. Well, everybody is very interested in this topic. I know that it's really hard, especially when you have picky eaters at home. It's just very hard to figure out what to do and how to help them. Looks like we have a question coming in now. This is from Steven. My son is 5 years old and is very limited in his food choices. He's starting kindergarten, and I want to pack a lunch that's healthy but also tastes good. I'd love some suggestions. Stephen, packing lunch is probably my least favorite pastime at home. I completely understand how you feel because you're just thinking about what will be the best nutritious snack for your child, but you want your child to end up eating it, right? You want them to be happy. You want them to love their lunch, not to trade with their friends, but then you also want them to be full and have a hearty. So I get it. It's definitely a topic of conversation at least 3 to 4 times a week in my house. I suggest for kindergarten, first of all, going with smaller portions is very helpful. The kids get very distracted. They talk to each other. They're slow eaters. This is a very the lunch hour at school is a rushed process, and they're not used to it. So I find that the smaller the portions, the better, so they can actually get through it. And then maybe you pack several different choices for them. So always a protein. I think always packing a protein is very important. And I try to talk to my kids and encourage them to have the protein first before the goldfish or the chips. Then you want to pack a fruit. That's a nice, sweet little snack for them. So you have your protein, you have your fruit. And then they like to have something a little fun, right? And that's what you look forward to in your lunch, whether it's goldfish or pretzels or, something that's, you don't want fried potato chips. You want, baked pretzels or the baked goldfish or something that's a little bit healthier, but is still a fun treat where they feel like they're being a little naughty. I always pack water because I discourage juice. Juice should be given in the morning, no more than 4 ounces a day. So a water. And then if you really want to spoil them, you throw in maybe like a small dessert if they're allowed. Maybe you baked a cake that weekend or you had cupcakes and you just give them just a very small piece of something. So you just kind of end the day with like a fun, sweet snack. I think that's always nice. You don't want to be too restrictive and too strict because then that's when they're always looking for something else or looking for that naughty little treat. So I usually try to do that. And like I said, the protein, whether it's a sandwich or chicken tenders or maybe leftovers from the night before, it depends on your child and what they're willing to eat, but make it easy. Just make it easy so that they can grab it and eat it quickly. Because if they feel overwhelmed or stressed out, or they have to get a fork or heat it up or twist and cut, then they just give up. They go for the goldfish and they leave the rest. So you want small finger foods, high-pack protein, hopefully fiber, some fruits, a fun little sweet treat, and a snack, and definitely water. I hope that helps. Okay, looks like we have another question coming in. This is from Darlene. We have a history of food allergies in our family. I've been breastfeeding our little boy, but he's almost 6 months, and I want to start giving him solid food. Please let me know how to introduce solids and how to keep an eye out for any food allergies. Darlene, that's a great question. This is pretty much what I talk about all day at work. So at 6 months of age, you want to start introducing solids, absolutely. And the recommendation is, first of all, whatever solid you're introducing, please introduce it in a bowl with a spoon. I know that sounds silly, but in a lot of cultures, including my own, usually what the parents will do is blend the vegetable or fruit and put it in a bottle and then open up the nipple so that they could drink everything in the bottle mixed with formula. And that's not what we want when we introduce solids. We want to actually not only introduce solid foods, but we want to teach the infants how to eat solid foods. They've been on a liquid diet for 6 months, so they need to understand the mechanics of actually eating a puree from a spoon. Do you want it in the bowl? You want to put it on a spoon, put it in their mouth so they learn how to take it off the spoon, use their tongue to push it back and swallow and actually eat efficiently. So with that said, bowl and spoon, you want to introduce veggies first. I always recommend a single veggie first. You're very unlikely to be allergic to a vegetable, whether it's sweet potato, carrots, green peas, avocado, squash, pumpkin. I mean, there's a variety of vegetables that are very easy to offer your child, that have a very easy, smooth taste and are not terribly strong or difficult for the palate. After your child tries different vegetables, and of course you want to introduce the same veggie for 3 days to observe for any type of reaction, whether it's allergic or intolerance. And after the 3 days, if they've been able to tolerate without an adverse reaction, then you would go ahead and introduce the next vegetable. I usually say to do this for about a week or two, and then you can go ahead and start introducing the fruits as well. And after you introduce a few fruits the exact same way, then you could start mixing and matching and putting things together. Truly, the true allergens that you're concerned about are going to be your proteins, your egg, your peanut butter, of course, milk, but by now you would have known if your child was allergic to milk products. So those are the 3 big allergens. And then, of course, fish, which is much later, around the 8 to 9 month mark. And in that event, I would say always have Benadryl around in the house. Give a small portion. And if you see a rash develop or swelling, immediately give the Benadryl and then call your pediatrician. That was a great question, by the way. I think we have time for one more question. Let's see. Annalise. Hi, Dr. C. I'm very glad you're talking about eating healthy today. My concern is for my teenage daughter, who is a binge eater. It's crazy. She eats way more than she needs or wants, for that matter. And of course, she's gaining weight, and I'm concerned about that. But what really bothers me is not knowing why she's eating so much. What can I do to help her? Annalise, that's a great question. And honestly, that is a concern that's more under the umbrella of disordered eating. I encourage you to bring her into her pediatrician and have a healthy discussion about this to get to the underlying reason of the binge eating. You're right. There is a reason for it. You guys need to address it before moving forward with her new nutritional dietary regimen. Good luck to you. And I hope that helps. I think that's all we have for today, guys. Thank you for all of your questions. That was great. And please feel free to go to Ask Hannah if you have any other questions, or contact me. Take care and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Health Channel podcast. We hope this information has been useful. However, please remember that only your doctor can advise you about what is best for you. Do not start, modify, or suspend treatment based on anything you have heard on this podcast. Please join us again soon.